The secret of using language to avoid suffering, according to the Buddha. Right speech. Consider how many times you have thought to yourself, if only I hadn't said those words. Or judging by their expression, I know my words hurt them. Careless words, excessive remarks, and tactless comments bring us a great deal of suffering. When we lie, we get caught. Gossiping about friends causes trouble for them. Speaking without thinking offends customers or friends. Engaging in idle chatter wastes time and accomplishes nothing. The bad habits in speech are not new issues. The Buddha regarded the practice of right speech as so vital to the development of personal character and spiritual growth that he made it a distinct part of the Noble Eightfold Path, the path leading to happiness. The Buddha taught that right speech has 4 characteristics. It is truthful, it inspires and uplifts, it is not harsh or bitter, but brings joy. It is gentle and not rude or rough, and it is humble and not useless or meaningless. The Buddha taught that a person who often speaks gentle and kind words will quickly gain trust and respect. Such a person will enjoy a state of calm and serenity and will be able to communicate with others in a friendly manner. For instance, have you noticed that people often speak to you in the same manner they hear you speak? If we frequently exaggerate or lie, others find it easy to lie back to us. If we have a habit of speaking sarcastically, others feel comfortable being blunt with us. Conversely, if we consistently speak the truth, our words are trusted more. If we are discreet, others find it hard to gossip about us. If our words are always kind and gentle, people feel embarrassed to use foul or harsh language in our presence. Clearly, our speech creates an environment that can either nurture happiness or destroy it. We know this because our personal experience shows that how we act or think is heavily influenced by the words spoken around us. One of the first nuns in the Buddhist community expressed this observation through poetry. If one befriends virtuous companions, even a fool becomes wise. If we want to become wise, we must not only seek virtuous friends, but also be virtuous friends to others. Achieving this requires mindful effort in practicing right speech. A Buddhist folktale illustrates how powerfully our words can influence our actions. A monk in the Buddha's Sangha had the habit of attending lavish meals with a group led by the immoral monk, Devadatta. Tempted by the delicious food these people offered, the monk often spent a lot of time socializing with this unwholesome group. The Buddha reprimanded the monk for choosing such friends and warned him of the consequences of his actions. To persuade the monk to change his attitude, the Buddha told him a story about an event from a past life in which the monk had been led astray by the harsh, unwholesome words of those around him. The Buddha said that in a past life, the monk was a large elephant under the care of a king. This elephant was known for its graceful and gentle demeanor. Then, a group of thieves began gathering near the elephant's stall each night to discuss their dark schemes. They spoke harshly to each other, encouraging one another to commit murder and other cruel deeds. The elephant began to believe that these harsh words were meant to teach it to act in a similar manner. As a result, the previously gentle elephant became fierce, attacking anyone who approached it. The king, who owned the elephant, sent a minister, who was the future Buddha, to investigate what had caused the gentle elephant to turn vicious. The minister heard the thieves' cruel words and realized how they had influenced the elephant. He advised the king to send wise and learned sages, known for their gentle speech, to speak near the elephant's stall each night. The kind and pleasant words soon influenced the elephant, returning it to its gentle nature, and it never became vicious again. Right speech can improve our lives in many ways. If only we never had to regret anything we said, we would be relieved of many burdens. Let's delve deeper into the 4 characteristics of right speech and examine how they can help us on the path to happiness. Speaking the truth. The first characteristic of right speech is always speaking the truth. The Buddha taught us never to lie, whether for personal gain, for the benefit of others, or for any other advantage. The Buddha summarized the guidelines for speaking the truth as follows. When someone is asked to testify, friend, please tell what you know. If you know, say I know. If you do not know, say I do not know. If you did not see, say I did not see. If you saw, say I saw. Do not intentionally speak falsehood for the sake of your own benefit or someone else's, or for some trifling worldly gain. There are also times when we are asked a question where silence may imply a certain answer. If our silence will reflect a falsehood, we must speak up. For example, if a police officer investigating a crime scene asks the crowd if anyone saw anything, and everyone remains silent, the officer will conclude that no one witnessed the event. If someone in the crowd did see what happened but chose to remain silent, they are lying by omission. They might feel they have valid reasons for not speaking, such as fear of retaliation, but their silence is still a lie. We can also lie through body language. Sometimes a shrug or a frown can be misunderstood as "I don't know," but if you do know, then that shrug is deceitful. However, there are instances when the truth should be kept confidential, because revealing it might harm others. In such cases, we must wait for the right time to speak the appropriate words to the appropriate person. The Buddha himself often remained silent when his answer might harm someone. Once, someone asked the Buddha if there was life after death. The Buddha simply sat in silence until the person gave up and left. Later, Ananda, his attendant, asked why the Buddha did not answer. The Buddha explained that any answer would have caused the person to suffer. If he had answered that there was life after death, the person would have concluded that there was an eternal self, which is a false belief that leads to suffering. But if he had answered that there was no life after death, the person would have misunderstood and thought, "Then I will not be reborn again," and would have suffered greatly. To avoid causing suffering, the Buddha chose to remain silent. The Buddha set guidelines to determine whether to speak or remain silent. If he knew something to be untrue, false, or unhelpful, he would not speak it. Such words the Buddha does not say. If he knew something to be true, factual, and beneficial, then the Buddha knows the time to use words. If his words were true, factual, beneficial, and timely, the Buddha would speak them regardless of whether they would be opposed or disagreed with by others, or accepted and agreed upon by others. With deep compassion and complete attention to the welfare of others, the Buddha never spoke just to please others. We can learn much from his virtue. When I am about to say something that does not align with the Buddha's guidelines, I remind myself that if I speak, I gain nothing, and no one gains or loses anything by my silence. For example, during a conversation with friends, one person is leading the discussion. I have something to say and feel impatient to wait. But I reflect on what I want to say and know that it is true according to past events, true to the current data, and it will benefit the listeners. However, if I speak immediately, I will offend the person speaking. This is not the right time, so I remind myself that I gain nothing by speaking out of turn, and no one gains or loses anything by my silence. I can say what needs to be said at another time. Words are not weapons. The second characteristic of right speech is to avoid malicious speech, wrong speech. As a common saying goes, the tongue is a boneless weapon trapped between two jaws. When we speak venomously, the tongue unleashes swords and daggers. Such words can cause someone to lose their honor and reputation. Even if what we say about someone is true, if our intention is to harm that person, it is malicious. The Buddha defined wrong speech as words that sever friendships between people. Here is an example. Suppose on a trip, I meet an acquaintance of my friend who lives far away. I recall that a few months ago, my friend told me an unflattering story about this person. I may not remember the story entirely, so I add a bit when retelling it. I make it seem as though I am doing a favor by informing the person that my friend spoke behind their back. The listener reacts angrily. When I return, I repeat the listener's words to my friend, adding a bit more to make the story more compelling. Since my actions cause a disagreement and the breakdown of a friendship, such words are wrong speech. Sometimes we disguise malicious speech as concern about someone else's actions. Or we reveal a secret that someone has trusted us with, believing we are doing it for their benefit. For example, telling a woman that her husband is unfaithful because you don't want her to be the last to know can cause more suffering for everyone involved. When you are about to speak in such a way, ask yourself what your purpose is. If it is to appear superior to others, to gain someone's gratitude, then your words are to satisfy your ego and are more malicious than ethical. Public speech can also be malicious. Tabloid newspapers, Online radio shows, chat rooms on the internet, and even some reputable media outlets seem to make a living using words as weapons. For example, sensational news about recent events is aimed at increasing readership and advertising revenue. Malicious words bring someone down to elevate someone else. They make the speaker appear bold, smart, or daring, regardless of others' rights. Not all malicious speech is crude. Sometimes people use seemingly gentle, sweet words with malicious intent. Such disguised verbal daggers are more dangerous than outright harsh words because they easily penetrate the listener's mind. In modern language, we call this backhanded compliments. For example, when we say to someone, "You are so wise to renovate your old house instead of moving to a more upscale neighborhood," or "Your gray hair looks great. The mature look really suits your profession." Right speech not only means being mindful of the words and tone, but also requires that our speech reflects compassion and concern for others, and that it supports, heals, rather than wounds and destroys. Kind words. The third type of wrong speech is harsh or coarse language. Insulting words, venomous speech, sarcastic remarks, arrogant criticism, or severe cursing are all examples of harsh language. Speech is a powerful tool that can be used for good or ill. The Buddha compared speech to a hammer. Everyone is born with a hammer in their mouth. The fool uses harsh words and hurts himself and others with that hammer. We might think of a hammer as a tool for chopping firewood. But in the Buddha's time, a hammer was a sharp and dangerous tool. It was used to split long logs, carve and chisel wood very precisely. It could fell tall trees and was a dangerous weapon, a formidable means that could maim or kill. A modern-day equivalent might be a computer. Computers can be used for many beneficial purposes, communicating across continents, creating music, or launching rockets to Mars. But they can also be used for destructive purposes. People use computers to launch missiles and control other weapons in warfare. Just as we must choose how to use a hammer or a computer, we must also choose how to use our words. Do we use words to encourage, comfort, and uplift others? Or do we use words to bring them down and hurt ourselves in the process? Sarcasm, malicious gossip, lies, or crude, thoughtless jokes not only offend others, but also make us look foolish, unable to use the hammer in our mouths without causing self-inflicted wounds. We are also foolish if we think that harsh, coarse language can accomplish anything positive. While we may feel satisfaction in putting someone down, teaching them a lesson, it is not a noble victory. As the Buddha taught, the fool thinks he has won with harsh, coarse words. But knowing how to restrain oneself, that alone is a true victory. Using harsh, offensive language to silence someone is easy. A wise opponent often withdraws from such an encounter and responds with cold silence. We might pat ourselves on the back and think, "I really showed him. He shut up when I spoke." But that outward victory is shallow. Our opponent might swear never to interact with us again, or secretly vow to take revenge someday. The ill will and suffering we cause others will rebound on us when we least expect it. It is not hard to find other examples of the negative effects of harsh words. Suppose you have a technically brilliant colleague, but his communication is problematic. He creates friction with colleagues through rude, coarse, arrogant, venomous, and derogatory remarks. As a result, even though his work is excellent, no one can stand him, and he has no path to advancement. A sadder example is the negative impact of harsh, coarse words on children. We've all heard parents say to their children, "You're such a disgrace, you can't do anything right, or you'll never amount to anything." Many of us may recall hearing similar words as children. Verbal abuse can leave scars on a child's soul that never heal. Of course, sometimes parents need to use firm words to keep their children safe, like warning them not to play with matches or run into the street. But firm words motivated by love and concern are different from those meant to humiliate or threaten. Even animals are affected by harsh words. My nephew had an Alaskan dog named Taurus. Taurus was very curious about animals he saw on TV and even tried to bite them. Being large, Taurus would often block the view of people sitting behind him when he became engrossed in what he saw on the screen. One day, someone shouted at Taurus to move aside in a very irritated, stern tone. Taurus reacted by going down to the basement and staying there for a week, refusing to come out even to eat. Occasionally, he would come out to take care of business, but then immediately return. Finally, the family had to coax him with gentle, sweet words before Taurus would come back upstairs. The gentle words of my nephew's family help restore the dog's friendliness. Kind words, as the Buddha taught, are always appropriate and welcomed. Speak kind words, words that are gladly welcomed, words that bear goodwill and are free from malice. Speak always with kindness to others. Saying to someone, "I really appreciate what you did. You handled that situation beautifully," or "It's great to see you," warms both the speaker and the listener. Gentle words are like honey on the lips. Expressing admiration or gratitude makes everyone happier. These words help us create and maintain friendships because everyone wants to be around someone whose gentle, kind words make them feel relaxed and comfortable. Gentle, kind words help children grow up with a sense of self-worth. Such words also help us learn and appreciate the Buddhist teachings. If we speak kind and wise words, the happiness we can spread to those around us becomes limitless. But be careful. Kind and gentle words must be sincere and come from a noble purpose. Speaking sweetly while thinking or doing the opposite is deceitful and not virtuous. We all know of religious leaders who use sweet words to spread fear or solicit donations for their organizations. I remember a Sri Lankan man who went around the country campaigning against the evils of alcohol. Thanks to his eloquence, he became famous, powerful, and widely known, attracting many followers. He led a campaign to close bars, eliminate liquor stores, and ban alcohol sales. One hot summer day, while he was delivering a passionate speech, he hastily took off his vest. A small bottle of liquor fell out of his pocket and hit the stage floor. That incident ended his campaign against alcohol and his political career. Although what he said about the dangers of alcohol was true, once people saw his deceit, they no longer wanted to listen to him. Avoiding idle chatter. The fourth type of wrong speech is idle chatter, which the Buddha referred to as frivolous or senseless talk. Gossip is a form of wrong speech, regardless of whether what we say about someone is true or not. After all, if 3 people tell a story to a 4th person, each version of the story will differ. Human nature tends to believe whatever we hear first, even though it may only reflect one person's perspective. These accounts might be based on truth, but gossip often becomes exaggerated and embellished. Gossip often leads to arguments and misunderstandings. It can destroy relationships. In severe cases, it can result in lawsuits for defamation or loss of reputation. In the Buddha's time, such actions could even topple an entire federation. The Lichavi people were an independent, proud tribe and one of the most powerful and significant members of a strong federation of 8 tribes. Their capital was the federation's capital. King Ajatasattu, an ambitious monarch and supporter of the heretical teacher Devadatta, planned to invade and conquer the Lichavi people. However, the king also sought the Buddha's advice about this invasion plan. The Buddha noted that the Lichavi people lived harmoniously and advised the king, "You cannot invade and conquer them as long as they remain united and harmonious." The king postponed his invasion and pondered the Buddha's words. Later, King Ajatasattu devised a simple but malicious plan. He instructed his prime minister to whisper something in the ear of a Lichavi man. The minister went to a Lichavi man and whispered a meaningless, trivial statement, "There is rice in the fields." Everyone knew rice could be found in the fields. But seeing the two whisper, another Lichavi man began to speculate about what the prime minister of King Ajatasattu had said to his friend. So he asked, and the first man repeated the statement about rice in the fields. Hearing this, the second Lichavi thought, "He is hiding the truth. He doesn't trust me. He made up this foolish statement about rice fields to deceive me." Filled with suspicion, this man went to tell another Lichavi about the whispering with the prime minister of King Ajatasattu. That person told yet another, and so on, until everyone believed the first man was a spy, and a secret society had been secretly formed within their community. Thus, peace was shattered. The Lichavis accused each other, leading to arguments and a war among the leading families of the Federation. Seeing his enemies divided, King Ajatasattu invaded Lichavi people and easily won the battle. After that, the king continued to conquer the remaining tribes. I do not need to hear such stories to understand how dangerous gossip can be. I have experienced it myself. It seems that whenever someone tries to do something good for society, someone else feels compelled to oppose that effort. They may feel insecure or jealous of another's success. Gossip is their weapon. They do not need to present evidence. They simply whisper harmful things and rely on others' not willingness to participate in idle talk to accomplish their harmful deeds. When we first tried to raise funds to build the meditation center, someone spread rumors about the Bhavana Society. They said I was exploiting donors and planned to use the funds we had raised to start a shady business. Anonymous letters were sent to key people, urging them not to donate. These rumors were fabricated with ill intent, but they were spread by people who did not know the truth. The Buddhist community where I lived, initially very enthusiastic, became shaken and divided. Fortunately, those opposing the Bhavana Society's construction could not find any actual evidence to exaggerate. Otherwise, they might have completely undermined our efforts. As long as people are willing to believe what others say and mindlessly repeat it, rumors will continue to spread. On one occasion, an American member of the Bhavana Society's board of directors went to Sri Lanka. There, he joined a group of meditators from various countries discussing meditation centers around the world. Someone mentioned the Bhavana Society, and a woman declared, "Oh, that's the center where they have tea parties every evening." When our board member objected, she insisted she was telling the truth. Finally, our board member said, "I have known Bhante Gunaratana since 1971 and have been involved with the Bhavana Society since its inception. I am sure there are no tea parties there." If no one knowledgeable had been present, no one could have refuted her claim. Others might have added more false and harmful details. This is how rumors are created and can harm individuals and organizations. If we hear someone spreading rumors or harmful information, we have two choices: either end the conversation or disagree with the falsehood, as our board member did. But there is a deeper, more profound aspect to the Buddha's advice to refrain from gossip. Many of us spend a lot of time talking about the meals we ate days or months ago, or recalling details from a frivolous movie or TV show we watched. We waste time telling jokes and idle stories. These conversations do not contribute to our intellectual growth. Considering how short life is and how it can be taken away by accidents or illnesses, do we really want to waste precious time on idle chatter? It's also true that some seemingly trivial or frivolous conversations can have an important purpose. Sometimes we need to use light, meaningless talk to comfort someone or connect with our children. Any mindful speech stemming from love and compassion is an acceptable part of right speech. The way to judge is to pause and ask ourselves before speaking, is what I'm about to say true? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Does it harm anyone? Is this the right time to say it? Right mindfulness in right speech. Right speech is not something you can practice on the meditation cushion. It happens during conversations, not in silence. However, while sitting in meditation, we can reflect on our speaking habits and strive to transform unwholesome mental states into wholesome ones, stemming from equanimity, loving kindness, and compassion. We can analyze our past actions and ask ourselves, were the things I said yesterday true? Did I use kind, gentle, truthful, and meaningful words? If we find that we were wrong in any aspect, we must resolve to perfect our mindfulness of right speech. The best approach is to think before speaking. People often say, hold your tongue, but it's more accurate to hold your mind. The tongue cannot act on its own. The mind directs it. Before speaking, observe your mind to see if the motivation is wholesome. You will regret any words spoken from greed, hatred, or delusion. Additionally, one must firmly resolve not to say anything that could harm others. This resolution will ensure careful thinking before speaking. When speaking mindfully, we will naturally speak truthfully, gently, and pleasantly. Mindfulness helps us refrain from using words like weapons that can deeply hurt others. If the intention to speak harshly arises, immediately use mindfulness and right effort to prevent those thoughts from continuing. The resolution not to harm others with our speech becomes especially important when speaking to someone we dislike or when debating topics we strongly support. Be cautious. Only use kind, carefully chosen words. In such situations, gentle and calm words help maintain harmony and keep the discussion productive and friendly for everyone. If someone approaches you angrily, complaining or speaking ill of one of your friends, for example, and you feel irritated, it's best to say nothing. Remind yourself silently, I must not react. I should not lose my mindfulness as they have. Arguing is pointless. I resolve to only engage in beneficial conversations. The other person will likely respond to your silence by stopping their upsetting talk. You can then guide the conversation to a more positive topic. As Buddhists, the moment we realize a conversation is going nowhere, we have a responsibility to steer it in a better direction. It's easy to get carried away in emotional arguments, leading to shouting. Such conflicts cause suffering for everyone involved. With mindful awareness, recall how painful it is to lose control. Remember that it may take hours or days to calm down enough to speak to the other person again. Many good feelings can be lost, sometimes permanently. However, despite our best efforts, we may still get angry. If the other person continues to provoke you, attacking you with harsh words, you might lose control. It's easy to get angry then. When you notice your irritation growing, say wait to the other person, hoping to gain a moment to calm yourself. But if they reply, no, you wait, and continue their attack, what should you do? In such situations, when the conversation has spiraled out of control, our duty is to quickly bring back mindfulness and use right effort to subdue our anger. Even if the anger causes your heart to race, your body to sweat, and your hands to shake, mindfulness of your vow to avoid harsh speech can help you control yourself. Just don't let the anger make you speak. Focus on your breath to re-establish mindfulness until your anger subsides. Self-restraint gives both you and the other person an opportunity to open up kindly. When your heart has calmed down, you can see the other person more clearly and understand why you are both upset. At that moment, you will also realize how uncomfortable anger makes you feel. When your care and respect for the other person increase, you can decide to use that moment to start a new relationship based on mutual respect and affection, strengthening the friendship between you. This is what we should always aim to achieve. When you realize that you have trained your mind and controlled your speech to turn a situation into a more harmonious one, be happy about it. Tell yourself, this is what I want. I always want to act in ways that bring about good things. Keep these thoughts in mind. I will share a story where I had to use mindfulness to practice right speech. Perhaps my experience will help you understand how to apply mindful awareness to situations in your life, at work, at home, and in personal relationships. Many years ago, when I was managing a temple, some people called for a meeting of the temple's benefactors. They opposed some projects I had initiated and wanted to express their anger through this forum. Some of these individuals reacted very strongly to the issues being discussed. They were born into Buddhist families but had no interest in meditation. In fact, they viewed meditation as madness. Therefore, they couldn't understand my work. I knew that I would be the target at this meeting, but what happened was worse than anyone could imagine. About 40 people attended the meeting, including many of my relatives, friends, and other Buddhists who came to show their support for my efforts. Before the meeting officially began, even before any introductions, a rude man stood up and started speaking. This man was uneducated, unskilled, and had a tendency to use coarse language. He didn't say much about the temple issues being discussed, but spoke a lot about me personally. Using disrespectful and uncivil language, he accused me of doing nothing for the temple for years, of causing people to stop supporting the temple, and so on. He attacked me with offensive and unacceptable words for 20 minutes. During this shocking verbal assault, I had to struggle with myself. I had to reason with myself to prevent anger from arising. I could see that this man was in a state of mental distress, and I reminded myself, I know this man is kind-hearted. We have had good relations in the past. He must have been poisoned by those who oppose me to speak like this. I also reflected that I had many opportunities to develop spiritually and culturally that he lacked. I remembered that he only had an elementary education, very few skills, and little interest in spiritual practice. By doing so, I tried to extend compassion towards him and was grateful that my practice made it difficult for me to speak or act as he did. I also reflected on the content of the situation. I thought that if I spoke against him, my supporters would rise to defend me, and the meeting might turn into a brawl. I saw many people rolling their eyes, glaring at him, and fidgeting in their seats. I felt their pain, especially my relatives. I was the elder in the family, the brother, uncle, and great-uncle, and I was known as a kind monk. Naturally, my family felt compassion and the need to protect me. I knew that if I showed hurt or anger at his words, my relatives would feel anger and other unwholesome states. They might even attack this man. So I reminded myself, now I must practice mindfulness, patience, and understanding to bring peace to this meeting. I established mindfulness by focusing on my breath. When faced with such confrontations, it is crucial to pause and take deep breaths before reacting, perhaps 2 minutes of deep breathing or 30 breaths in and 30 out. This pause gives us time to calm down and purify the mind so we can speak gently instead of harshly. Finally, the man seemed to have vented his emotions and stopped speaking. Everyone was tense. All eyes were on me. In a gentle voice, I said, "This man has been my friend. He has always supported the temple and has done many good and beneficial deeds. He also knows what I have done for the temple over the years. However, today he seems disappointed, angry, and perhaps not feeling calm. Therefore, I feel it is necessary to offer a blessing for him and for everyone." I asked everyone to join hands in prayer to show respect to the Buddha by saying 3 times, "We pay homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One." This is how we usually begin solemn ceremonies. From that moment, due to the power of tradition, no one could argue or express any opposing views anymore, as they didn't want to appear disrespectful to the Buddha. Then, I led the group in taking the 5 precepts to uplift their spirits and ensure that everyone remembered the Buddha's teachings on non-harming and truthfulness. Finally, I recited a long blessing chant, and when it ended, I said, "Now you can go home. The meeting is over." And that was the end of the story. Many years later, that man still kept a cool attitude towards me, but later I had the opportunity to help him through difficult times in his life. Since then, he has remained friendly to me and always expressed gratitude and respect. Mindfulness was the key to dealing smoothly with that difficult situation. You can use this method too. Sometimes I hear people justify their actions by saying that things happened so quickly that even with mindfulness, they couldn't control their actions or words. Saying even with mindfulness, they acted that way is incorrect. Perhaps their mindfulness was too weak or overpowered by greed, hatred, or delusion. Because by definition, mindfulness helps us control what we think, how we act, and what we say. You cannot insult someone mindfully, abuse alcohol mindfully, or commit sexual misconduct mindfully. If you are truly mindful, you cannot do such things. Because our ingrained habits are so strong, whenever we open our mouths, words seem to flow out. You may not realize how much energy we expend when we speak. With mindfulness, we can stop this energy loss and conserve it. We can use this conserved energy to gain insight into the nature of our habits. Using this energy as fuel, we can reflect on ourselves during meditation, review our actions, and strive to train our minds further. However, when we let this pent-up energy out without mindfulness, it often explodes like a cork from a bottle. I often see this at the end of meditation retreats. Just moments before, everyone was completely silent, sitting still or moving gently and slowly. Then, the moment the vow of silence ends, there's an explosion of talking. Conversations and dialogues continue for hours or more, until all the accumulated energy is spent. The longer the retreat, the noisier people become, unless they make an effort to maintain mindfulness in their speech. The only remedy for wrong speech is a strong dose of mindfulness, not just during retreats or when you are in challenging situations, but throughout your life. Mindfulness of right speech will bring you happiness. I guarantee it. Summary of right speech. Here are the summarized guidelines to prevent suffering through the practice of right speech. Right speech means not lying, not using harsh, rough, or frivolous language. Lying by remaining silent is still lying. Malicious speech is the type of language that destroys friendships or damages someone's reputation. Verbal attacks, sarcasm, vulgarity, deceit, and excessive criticism all fall under the category of harsh, rough speech. Harsh, rough speech harms others and lowers the dignity of the speaker. Gossip and frivolous talk often lead to arguments, misunderstandings, waste of time, and mental agitation. All speech that does not stem from equanimity, love, and compassion is harmful. One way to determine if you are using right speech is to pause and ask yourself before speaking, is this true? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? Will it harm anyone? Is this the right time to say it? Use mindfulness to strengthen the resolve not to speak harmfully, and to speak only gentle, well-chosen words that can bring harmony to everyone in any difficult situation.